good news about homelessness amongst U.S. veterans. This is from AP, I believe, Associated Press. Since January 2020, the numbers of homeless veterans have fallen 11%, and they've gone down 55% over the past 13 years, as according to government data. Interesting because, as we know, homelessness generally is on the rise in the US, so it is a contrast to the general population. And there's still about a little over 30,000 homeless vets in the US, but getting that down by half in the past 13 years is not too shabby. They say in the article that the credit goes to the Obama administration's work to make housing veterans a top priority, the $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief package, which gave a bunch of money to the Department of Veteran Affairs homeless program. And there's also a lot of really interesting collaborations between government agencies, nonprofits, and corporate foundations. The one that the article highlights in particular is Home Depot, that gives actually massive amounts of money to this, which I did not know.
Covering Colorado First and Longmont for you, where an affordable housing development has become a national model.
Sadly, thousands of those who serve our country are homeless. But as Sean Boyd shows us, this development is giving one veteran a home and hope.
Located on 80 acres of land overlooking the Front Range, the Mountain Brook community in Longmont has all the amenities new home buyers expect. And one that developer Kevin Molshine admits he not only didn't expect, but had never seen until a few years ago. He'd volunteered to help the city of Longmont build transitional housing for homeless veterans, but kept running into resistance from neighbors.
It changed our opinion to say, instead of this being a negative or a stigma that could impact negatively on sales in a community, we thought, maybe Longmont, Boulder, Colorado is ready for an amenity called compassion.
Yeah, I mean, clearly amongst the pandemic hangovers that are affecting particularly cities and public policy and shaping elections, people's concerns about public safety writ large or public order, which includes crime, it includes homelessness, it includes quality of life, social services, public services, etc., has been very high on the agenda of most people who live in most cities in the United States. And then you add to that in a place like New York or other places with the migrant challenge, which can segue with homelessness depending on how much the city is able to manage that. So any decrease in that is absolutely a positive. And one of the advantages of veterans and homelessness is it's a category that can be targeted, right? It's a category that you can define and address. The thing we're not doing a very good job about, of course, is the overlap between mental health issues and homelessness, which is massive. And there is some, if not causation, then clearly correlation between the collapse of public mental health services from the 90s and 2000 and aughts and the rise of homelessness of people who would otherwise have been in institutions. Granted, many of those institutions were not great places to be. So the point is not to go back to crappy state mental institutions, but to go forward to how do we care for people who really genuinely cannot care for themselves, right? This is not a question of just go get a job or provide housing. If someone is really unable to care for themselves in that way, we have to create an infrastructure to do so that is not just, we'll just let them live on the streets. And so a certain amount of public disorder that has all sorts of ripple effects that are quite negative. So this is one very particular way of addressing a problem that is just a problem, right? I don't think anybody of any political spectrum would argue that these things are not issues that should be dealt with. So, we'll do kind of a check mark, as in that's a good thing in terms of the veteran problem, and we probably should now turn to the mental health challenges.
Yeah, it was interesting to me. I mean, first of all, I like to pick out, I try to pick out stuff that both by politics and by listenership, homelessness kind of gets into, it's more difficult to tackle as far as how we're going to do it. Homeless veterans is one that everyone kind of feels more aligned around supporting, in my view, as far as the political parties go. And this one in particular is interesting because there are a lot of problems that, we've talked about this on the podcast, that sometimes the position on the left is like, let's throw money at the problem. And sometimes that works and sometimes that does not work. And this one is interesting because we threw some money at the problem and it actually worked. So thumbs up for that.
Lo and behold.